Finding an escaped gorilla in the dead of night is hard. The bombing raid had woken up every single animal in the zoo. Even though the Nazi planes were now heading back to Germany, the animals could not be calmed. The parrots were squawking, the lions were roaring, the elephants were hooting. So it's hard to know where in the zoo Gertrude might be just from listening. But Eric had an idea. As soon as Batter had disappeared into the distance, Eric grabbed Sid by the hand. "This way," he hissed. "Hold up," said Sid, clanking along. "Sorry, I forgot," said the boy. "So do I sometimes, until they get rusty." Moments ago, Eric had broken into the zoo's snack bar to fetch some raisins for Gertrude. As he climbed out of the snack bar window, the bag of raisins had been ripped. The gunshot had spooked the gorilla, but if she'd followed her nose, she may very well have found her way to the trail of the fruity treats on the ground. Eric and Sid retraced the boy's steps, but even using Sid's torch, they couldn't see any. Maybe the pigeons had got them. Or maybe, just maybe, a much bigger creature. The pair hurried past the flamingos, round the meerkats and along the warthogs to the snack bar. The snack bar window that Eric had forced open was now flapping in the wind. "You don't think she's in there, do you?" asked Sid. "Shh!" shushed the boy before nodding his head. The pair tiptoed over to the window. Sure enough, there was the gorilla, slumped on the floor amid a massive mess of food. There were bags and wrappers everywhere. Gertrude was alternating between swigging from a bottle of fizzy pop and munching on some jelly babies that had been scattered all over the floor. "Boop!" burped the gorilla. It was as loud as thunder. The gorilla had clearly never had fizzy pop before. The pair at the window couldn't help burst out laughing. Gertrude looked up, startled. "Who?" she gurgled. "Shh, Gertrude, it's just us," whispered Eric. He dashed to the door. "Locked," he said. "And I don't have the key," replied Sid. "How are you going to get her safely back in her cage before Batter sees her?" "We'll have to climb through the window." "My age," spluttered Sid. "I'll help. Here, let me give you a leg up." The old man sighed and muttered to himself. The boy couldn't work out what he'd said, but it sounded like one of those rude words grown-ups said sometimes that children aren't allowed to use. Eric put his hands together to form a little cradle and gestured for Sid to step on it. The boy had seen cowboys do this when mounting a horse in westerns, and it looked like a doddle. However, Eric was not a strapping cowboy, and neither was Sid. The man certainly was not helped by having battered old tin legs. So after a wobbly start, poor Sid ended up falling through the open window, the back of his trousers getting caught on the hook. Like a magic trick, a rude magic trick, the old man's trousers and undercrackers were yanked back as he slid downwards. "Oh, me botty!" he exclaimed, and he landed in a crumpled heap on the floor. Eric should really have had his serious face on at this moment, all kind and concerned, but he just couldn't. Instead, he burst out laughing. Now, laughter is infectious. Either that or gorillas find wrinkly old bottoms funny, because Gertrude burst out laughing too. If you've never seen a gorilla laugh, it is a wonderful sight to behold. They rock their heads back, they bare their teeth, and they thump the floor. "Help me!" cried Sid, still lying on the floor. The boy unhooked the man's trousers and then climbed through the window. He helped him up. Clunk, clank, click. And slowly the pair approached the gorilla. She burped again. The boy caught a waft. "Phew," he moaned. "Gorilla burps smell bad." "Wait till you smell what comes out of the other end," remarked the old man. "That really pongs." Anything to do with bottom burps always made Eric laugh. "So how are you going to get Gertrude back to her cage?" Said Sid, surveying the scene. The gorilla looked perfectly content, gulping and guzzling away. "I've got an idea," exclaimed the boy. "If Gertrude followed a trail of raisins here, she might just follow a trail back." "Bingo," said Sid. The boy beamed with pride before looking around the snack shop for more bags of raisins. Unfortunately, Gertrude had already demolished all but one. Eric seized the last remaining bag and waggled it in front of the gorilla's face. "Gertrude," he said in a sing-song voice that everyone adopts when talking to animals. "Yummy scrummy raisins." "Let me see if I can get this door open," said Sid. He didn't want to risk his trousers coming down and the world seeing his bottom again. The man found the spare key on the shelf and unlocked the door. "Done it," announced Sid, turning back to Eric and Gertrude. "Raisins," called out the boy. "Nice, juicy raisins." With that, he scattered some raisins in the gorilla's path. Just as Eric had thought, Gertrude stood up and began lolloping towards them, picking each one up and munching it down. Eric smiled. His plan was going exactly to plan. He scattered some more raisins all the way to the door. Sid stood proudly saluting by the door, ready to open it like a doorman at a posh hotel. "This way, madam," he chirped as he swung the door open. But none of them realised that standing on the other side of the door was Batter. The old soldier squeezed the trigger on his rifle, ready to fire. "No!" screamed Eric, jumping between Gertrude and the rifle. He knocked the gun out of Batter's hand as he did so. Bang! The shot rang out. The bullet exploded through the snack bar roof. Gertrude was terrified and charged at Batter. Their heads clonked together, and both fell to the ground, knocked out cold. "What on earth did you think you were doing, boy?" shouted Sid. "I was trying to save Gertrude," protested Eric. "You could have got yourself killed." "I'm sorry. And now we are in deep, deep doo-doo." Eric looked down at the pair sprawled on the ground. "Do you think they're all right?" he asked. "Gertrude or Batter?" asked Sid. "Well, I was thinking of the gorilla." "Come on, we need to sort both of them out." That's what they did. They found a large wheelbarrow, normally used to ferry dung around the zoo. "Ladies first," announced Sid, and with great effort they lifted Gertrude into it. She was wheeled back to her cage, which they thought was the safest place for her despite the damage to the roof. First, Sid and Eric untied the rope and then attached it to the top of the roof. Next, using the branches of a nearby tree as a pulley, they hoisted the top of the cage back into position. Then, to stop it from falling down again, they tied it off around the trunk of a tree. To hide the damage, they put some hay and twigs around the top of the cage so you couldn't see where the roof had been torn off. Finally, they wheeled Gertrude into her cage, gently lifted her out of the wheelbarrow, and set her down on a bed of straw. The gorilla snored away. "She looks peaceful when she sleeps," remarked Eric. "Let's get out of here before she comes to," replied Sid. "That was a nasty bump on the head. She might wake up in a foul mood." "Gertrude's never in a foul mood." "No, but we'd be safest on the other side of this cage. Come on." The boy gave his friend a good-night kiss on her forehead, just like Mum and Dad used to do to him. "Sleep tight," he said. By the time they were out of her cage, dawn was rising over the zoo. With the sun up, Eric and Sid could see plumes of thick black smoke rising up all over London. This must have been one of the worst nights of bombing in the war so far. Night after night, building after building, London was being flattened. If the explosions of the bombs didn't bring death and destruction, then the blazes they caused would. So many buildings in London would now be nothing but a blackened shell. Looking up at the sky above inked with smoke, Eric felt lucky to be alive. Although he was meant to be tucked up in bed at his grandma's house, perhaps the zoo was the safest place to be after all. Now Eric and Sid had to act fast. Soon more and more people who worked at the zoo would be arriving. They would be asking questions as to why the night watchman was sprawled out on the ground. Finally, they got back to the snack bar to deal with Batter. The man and his rifle were nowhere to be seen. "He's gone," called out Eric. "Oh, no, I haven't," said Batter as he stepped out of the shadows. "You two are in ginormous trouble."